Welcome back, students, to IGTV's lesson of Form 1 Mathematics. We are still in Chapter 2. Now remember, boys and girls, that this lesson is probably one of the most important lessons for you. Why? At the end of this lesson, if you follow exactly what we are teaching you, you are probably going to be the superstar of your class. Don't believe? Let's take a look. In this lesson, we're going to teach you divisibility tests. It is useful to know some simple divisibility tests. Now basically, A divided by B is equal to K. A is known as the dividend, B is known as the divisor, and K is known as the quotient. Let's take a look at this table. For the divisor 2, the dividend can be all even numbers, that is, the numbers must end in 0, 2, 4, 6 or 8. For an example, 3126 is an even number, so it must be divisible by 2. Let's check out 3 as a divisor. The sum of all the digits in the dividend is divisible by 3. For example, 3102 is divisible by 3. How do we know that? The sum of all the digits in the dividend 3102, 3 plus 1 plus 0 plus 2 will give you a total of 6. Now, is 6 divisible by 3? Yes. Therefore, 3102 is divisible by 3. It's kind of easy now, isn't it? For the divisor 4, make sure the last 2 digits of the number is divisible by 4. For example, 6124 is divisible by 4. How do we know that? 6124, the last 2 digits are 2 and 4. 24 is divisible by 4. Next, the divisor 5. Make sure the last digit of the number must be either 0 or 5 only. For example, 4200 is divisible by 5 because the last digit is 0. The divisor 6. The number must be divisible by both 2 and 3. For example, 234 is divisible by 6 as first it is even, and then the sum of the digits 2 plus 3 plus 4 is 9, and we all know that 9 is divisible by 3. The divisor 8. The last 3 digits of the dividend must be divisible by 8. For example, 5128 is divisible by 8 as 128 is divisible by 8. 128 divided by 8 is 16. Next, let's take a look at the divisor 9. The sum of all the digits in the dividend must be divisible by 9. For example, 14382 is divisible by 9 as 1 plus 4 plus 3 plus 8 plus 2 is 18, and 18 is divisible by 9. Now let's take a look at the divisor 10. Now this is easy. All we've got to do is make sure the last digit of the dividend ends with 0. For example, 51230 is divisible by 10 as the number ends with 0. Next, the divisor 11. The difference between the sum of the digits in odd positions and the sum of the digits in even position is 0 or a multiple of 11. Now pay attention to this. 52437 is divisible by 11 as 5 plus 4 plus 7 minus with the total of 2 plus 3 will equal 11, which is a multiple of 11. Therefore, 52437 is divisible by 11. Next, let's take a look at the divisor 25. The last two digits of the dividend are 00 or 25 or 50 or 75. Now, as an example, 4025 is divisible by 25 because the last two digits end in 25. Let's check out one last divisor, 100. The last two digits of the number must be 00. For example, 72800 is divisible by 100 because the number ends in 00. Now, as a tip for you guys out there, remember the divisibility of 12 is the same as the divisibility by both 3 and 4. Now, I know students that this looks more like a reference, right? Although it is that way, I would like to make it much more clearer to you by showing you few illustrations on the board. Let's take a look. Now, boys and girls, throughout the lesson, we've been hearing the word divisible, divisible, divisible. So what is this divisibility? Divisibility means a number can be divided exactly without leaving any remainder. Very good. So if you can divide it exactly, then there is divisibility there. So now let's take a look at this. Say suppose most students, the moment we see this number 413 as the dividend, most students will always go and attack the last number, and they will see the last digit here is 3. If it ends with 3, it should be able to be divided by 3. Now you got to pay attention to this because that's not the case. Why? Let's check it out. 3 multiplied by 1 is 3. Now when we minus, we get a remainder 1. We bring down 1 over here, 11. 3 multiplied by 4 already overshoots, isn't it? So 3 multiplied by 3, 9. We will end up getting, we borrow 1. So 2, 3 is brought over. 7. 3 multiplied by 7 is 21. Now, check this out, boys and girls. We have a remainder of 2. Now, since there is a remainder, can we say that 413 is divisible by 3? No, right? So, remember always to follow the chart that we discussed earlier. In those tables, you will find out exactly how it is that you will find the divisibilities. Therefore, actually, for the divisor 3, what were we supposed to do? Now, if we refer to the table, that would teach you to sum up the digits found in the dividend. 4 plus 1 plus 3. Now, the total of this is 4 plus 1, 5 plus 3, 8, right? Now, we have to make sure that this, the total of all the digits in the dividend must be divisible by 3. Is 8 divisible by 3? What is divisibility? It must divide exactly without a remainder. Can we do it? No, we can't. So therefore, the table is very, very useful for you. Make sure you refer and do not just make a wild guess. Let's move on and see other things. Now students, in this next example, I want to pick the divisor 4. Now let's think of a dividend here. What about this? 1, 1, 4. Now, according to the table that we discussed earlier with you, if we have the divisor 4, the dividend has to have the last 2 digits. You've got to pay attention to the last 2 digits, and the last 2 digits should be divisible by 4. That means there must no be any remainder. Now, the last 2 digits here are 1 and 4. Now, is 14 divisible by 4? No, right? So by now we already know that there will be a remainder here and it cannot divide exactly. But let's just, for the fun of it, let's see whether this is true or not. Now let's divide it. 4 multiplied by 2 gives you 8. Now there is a remainder of 3 over here. We'll bring down the digit 4, 34. Now 4 multiplied by 8 will give you 32. See, boys and girls, there is a remainder of 2 over here. Now this is why I always tell students to pay attention. Why? Some students always look at this number 4 at the end. They see a number that can be divided without any remainder with the 4, and then they will think that yes, this number can be divided by 4. You have to understand that you do not only look at the last digit, you've got to look at the last 2 digits. You're comfortable with this? Now with that, let's take a look at another illustration and then we'll move on. Now students, let's take a look at this number, 5218. Now let's think for a while and see, is this number divisible by 5? The divisor 5, is it divisible? Now, no. Why no? Because we already learned that in order for it to be divisible by 5, the last digit has to be either 0 or 5, right? So you see, because we have 8 over here, it is not divisible by 5. What about if we want to check whether it is divisible by 3 or not now? Okay, in order for it to be divisible by the number 3, we've got to take the sum of all the digits in the dividend, right? So 2 plus 1 is 3. 3 plus 8 is 11. Now, is 11 divisible by 3? No. So you see, when we check for divisibility by 2, you answered yes. Why? Even number. Very good. Is it divisible by 3? Your answer is no. Why? The sum of all 3 digits. Now you got to watch all 3 digits. Is 11 and it is not divisible by 3. What about divisibility by the divisor 4? Now can this be divided by 4? Let's see. In order to find that out, what do you have to do? Check out the last 2 digits. The last 2 digits are 1 and 8. Is it divisible by 4? No. Why? 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2, 8. 4 times 3, 12. 4 times 4, 16. 4 times 5, 20. You see? It cannot be divided by 4 exactly. Now, why I'm showing this to you, boys and girls, is remember that for every different circumstance, we have got to watch different clues. For divisibility by 2, 1 digit. For divisibility by 3, we saw 3 digits. For divisibility by 4, we saw the last 2 digits. For divisibility by 5, last digit must be 0 or 5 only. You see? However, in that table that I gave you earlier, you don't find the divisor 7. Why don't we see the divisor 7 there? Because in order for you to know the divisor 7, there are so many operations involved there. And there are so many combinations, it's just ridiculous for us to remember it. Alright, so with that, boys and girls, let's move on to another example. So if you take a look at the next example here, we've got the number 51230 divide by 10. Now, in order to be divisibility by 10, what you've got to see, last digit must end with 0, isn't it? Why? Check this out. Because if it's 0, it goes on, and the answer will simply be 5123. I used to love 10 as a divisor. Why? It's so easy to do. Now, let's take a look at another example. Now, say suppose I give you the dividend 48103, divisor 11. Now, boys and girls, I want you to try it yourself now. Go ahead and try it yourself. Make a guess first. Is it divisible by 11 or not? Okay? Now, let's carry out the division. 11 multiplied by 4 will give you 44. Okay, now we get 4. We'll bring down the 1. Now, it's not enough to multiply by 4. So what we got to do? Multiply it by 3. We'll get 33 over here. We borrow 1. So it becomes 11. Minus 3. 8, bring down the 0, multiply by 7, 11 multiplied by 7, we'll get 77. We have 3, why? Because we borrow 1 over here, so 10 minus 7, we will get 3. Bring down the 3. 11 multiplied by 3, 33. Is there a remainder? No, there is no remainder. Therefore, this dividend is divisible by 11. Now, this is one way to do it. Now, why did we teach you the table just now? Because in the table, it's like kind of a shortcut for you to check quite quickly. So, how do we do it then? You see, for the divisor 11, we have got 3 steps. The first step, find all the odd placed digits, the digits that are placed in the odd position. So check this out. Say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I'll write it out for you so that it's easier. 4, 8, 1, 0, 3. Now, this, and this. These 3 digits are placed in the odd position. However, these 2 digits are placed in the even position. Let's sum up the odd position. 4 plus 1 plus 3. These are all the digits in the even position. Let's sum them up now. 4 plus 1, 5, plus 3, 8. So, all the digits in the odd position have a total of 8. Step number 2. Even position. Add them up. 8 plus 0, you end up getting 8. Now, boys and girls, you see, we got a value. The value for the sum of digits in the odd position, value for sum of digits in the even position. In the last step, what you got to do is minus. 8 minus 8. We got a minus of these 2. We get 0. And if you get 0, boys and girls, it is divisible by 11. So remember, I told you, this is not a must know or you must memorize it. There's nothing like that. But if you can do it, my promise to you is you're going to be the superstar of your class. So with that, boys and girls, I hope you can pay attention and carry out your own exercises. With that, dear students, let's take a look at a summary of this chapter. In this chapter, we first taught you types of some special numbers. And in that, we saw even numbers, odd numbers, and prime numbers. Next, we also taught you multiples. And in multiples, you saw common multiples and further on lowest common multiples, known as the LCM. We also taught you factors. And under factors, we taught you prime factors and common factors. Now, the most important common factor was the highest common factor, also known as HCF. And finally, we taught you divisibility. So how was chapter 2, boys and girls? It was all about numbers, wasn't it? Now, I know it might have been stressful for you before watching this lesson, but I'm very sure that after this lesson of chapter 2, you should have been having all those numbers comfortably in your grasp. Now, boys and girls, there is much fun coming up next. Chapter 3, wait up for fractions. With that, thank you for watching ITTV, and I'm waiting to see you soon.